I am the most virtuous lady in the capital. On the second day after my wedding, I arranged for my husband to take 4 concubines. A year has passed, and all 4 of them remain childless, quiet as hens. I suddenly realized, my husband seems incapable. My husband seems incapable. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. At noon, the patients at the Hui Chun clinic came and went. I shifted my seat closer to Dr. Ouyang and said sheepishly, "Tell me, is there any good solution?" Dr. Ouyang's eyes swept back and forth, and he approached expressionlessly, lifting his robe. "Virility powder, 5 coins a pack, fair to all, young and old," I said with a wooden face, gazing at the brocade banner behind him that read "1 consultation worth 1,000 gold, and added, "Be a decent person." I paid 1,000 taels of silver, not to buy fake medicine. Dr. Ouyang stroked his beard. "Those who've used it all say it's good." I scratched my hair, looking troubled. After all, given my husband's condition, it might require a long-term collaboration. Dr. Ouyang, with an air of immortal grace, looked at me with great disdain. "Madam, your attire is splendid. You don't seem to be short on silver." "Not only am I not short on silver, I even receive a monthly stipend. My name is Feng Ningwen, a hidden guard of the Empress Dowager. Gender, female. Hobby, slacking off." After just a couple of days of haphazard training, I was put on the job. The night before receiving the assignment, I stayed up all night playing mahjong and was drowsy the next day, only remembering 6 words: raise Chen Yu's eldest son. It wasn't until I married the Chancellor Chen Yu as Feng Ningwen, the daughter of the governor of Tongju, that I came to my senses. He hadn't taken a wife. So where did this eldest son come from? I urgently wrote a letter and sent it to the palace. The eunuch Wang by the Empress Dowager's side replied, telling me to figure it out on my own. Instructor Old Wang once said, "A competent spy must know how to adapt to the situation." So I drafted a 3-year plan. In the first year, win Chen Yu's trust and find him a few beautiful concubines. In the second year, bear him a son. In the third year, take the son away. I hesitated, wondering if this fake medicine might make him even more incapable. Dr. Ouyang was furious. "Are you going to buy it or not? If not, don't block the way." I grabbed his hand that was shooing me away. "Hey, wait. Give me 40 packs. Dr. Ouyang froze. "How many?" I slapped a silver ingot on the table. 40. "Hurry up, it's urgent." Under his peculiar gaze, I, the wife of the current Prime Minister, sneaked out the back door of the Hui Chun pharmacy like a thief, clutching a stack of medicine. It wasn't until I got into the carriage that I gleefully pulled them out one by one. "Fengji, we've got a chance, a real chance, for concubines, each for 10 months. I refuse to believe they still can't bear a child." Fengji looked murderous. "Even if they conceive, they'll give birth next year. When the Empress Dowager reviews our performance at the end of the year, we're both done for." I was taken aback. By the end of the year, Fengji's face darkened, radiating a murderous aura. When did I say that? Fengji was on the verge of a meltdown. She held back for a moment but finally couldn't contain it, roaring at me, "You never listen carefully when taking on missions. Damn it, I must be blind to team up with you. I must be out of my mind to go on missions with you." My face turned pale. "No way, get out." My partner, whom I had worked with for a year, abandoned me and fled on the day of the minor New Year. She turned and walked away with her bundle on her back, looking incredibly carefree, leaving me alone to face the Empress Dowager's wrath. I had misunderstood the task, and with the year coming to an end, I couldn't deliver the assignment. Where to get a child from became my biggest problem. I paced anxiously back and forth in the exquisitely decorated courtyard, sometimes looking up at the sky in silence. Several times, I wanted to confront Chen Yu and ask if he had any illegitimate children raised elsewhere, but in the end, I held back. Chen Yu was a cold and unpredictable man. I take a concubine, and he says it's fine. I advise him to share his favor equally, and he also says it's fine. It seems there's nothing wrong with him, except, he doesn't treat me very well. It's not exactly mistreatment, just leaving me out in the cold. When he's in a good mood, he might say a word to me. When he's not, he won't even glance my way. Of course, as a spy, I don't really care about that. What really gives me a headache is that he's been visiting all the different courtyards for almost half a year, yet none of his concubines have shown any signs of pregnancy. That's why I sought out the esteemed and venerable physician Sage Ouyang. It was already noon, the sun high in the sky. I fanned myself vigorously, the fan slapping loudly in my hand, and frowned as I asked, "When will the Chancellor return from court?" Fengji was gone, replaced by a maid who answered coldly, He returned long ago, truly. The servant reflects the master. Neither of them was the least bit welcoming. After court, Chen Yu would always go to the study for a while before heading to Chinga Garden to repair the zither. I calculated the time and went straight to Chinga Garden. Inside, the sound of the zither being tuned rose and fell in cadence. Pushing the door open, I saw Chen Yu in a blue robe, sitting on the floor. His jade-like, coolly elegant face was half hidden behind the window frame, revealing only a profile so breathtaking it seemed divine. This man was a genius of his time, with unparalleled wisdom and strategy. Mr. Chen is respectfully addressed by many in the court. He is comparable to a sage. Standing at the door, I suddenly found myself at a loss for words. How could one ask a sage, "Have you been diligently favoring your concubines lately?" Or ask, "Is your body well? Do you feel powerless at night?" But even the most virtuous have their desires and emotions. Chen Yu raised his eyes and looked at me calmly. "What is it, madam?" I rubbed my nose and walked to the window, meeting his gaze through the glass. Chen Yu remained silent, waiting for me to speak. I steeled myself and spoke rapidly. "Have you taken a liking to any young lady recently?" Under my gaze, Chen Yu slowly furrowed his brow. "What, are you trying to arrange a concubine for me again?" In front of him, I felt like a student meticulously scheming against their teacher. As if my intelligence was being completely outmatched. "I'm not in a position to say much," I said with little confidence. "This time, you handle it yourself. Even if there's a child, I wouldn't mind." Perhaps my gaze was too expectant. After a long pause, he nodded in understanding. "I see." He was being surprisingly agreeable. I brought out the prepared pear soup and hinted cautiously, "I heard that Aunt Jiang recently acquired a tiger-striped peeper and came to me for advice. As you know, I'm not well versed in music. If you have time, husband, perhaps you could give her some guidance." Chen Yu tossed aside the plane, shook off the wood shavings, and picked up the heavy cloak nearby as if preparing to go out. I hurried over with the pear soup. "Want a sip?" He glanced at me indifferently. "Since you don't understand music, come to me every afternoon." I was dumbfounded. It's not for you to teach me, it's for Aunt Jiang. Let her come to me herself." I opened my mouth to speak. Seeking favor and receiving favor are two entirely different things. Aunt Jiang valued her pride too much to actively pursue such matters, which left me momentarily at a loss. Chen Yu pushed aside the pear soup in front of him, walked out to the corridor, and wrapped himself in a heavy cloak. Later, change the couplets. Letting go of the old and welcoming the new is always a good thing. I glanced at him suspiciously, sensing that he seemed to be in a rather good mood today. Perhaps, the new year is approaching soon. Then a chill ran down my spine, sensing there was more to his words. Could it be that he knew I was about to leave? I hurried back to my small courtyard, my mind still unsettled, only to be surrounded by 4 young women. Has he agreed to my matter? Next time it's my turn. "Don't you dare cut in line." I gave her 3 taels of silver. As they spoke, the group began to shove and tussle with each other. I was used to it, so I pulled Aunt Jiang out of the crowd and shoved the silver into her hand. It didn't work out. Aunt Jiang was stunned at first, then slowly came to her senses. "That can't be. Last time, I managed to charm the Prime Minister so well that I even stayed up with him reading The Art of War at midnight." I scratched my head in frustration. "What did you read with him?" The Art of War with a cold expression. I finally couldn't hold back my temper. "You all, can you just focus on your bellies?" Aunt Mai, picking at her nails painted with rouge, spoke in a soft Wu dialect. "Madam is absolutely right. You all, haven't you noticed how much weight you've gained since winter? There's a handful of fat on your bellies. You really need to be more mindful." Aunt Dun, who had been lost in thought, snapped back to attention and asked with a serious face, "Mindful? What kind of mindful?" Only Aunt Lan was sensible, saying, "Since Sister Jiang doesn't want to go, why not lend me the tiger-striped peeper?" Aunt Jiang frowned with concern. "Then you must be careful. My sister knows that treasures are hard to come by." Aunt Jiang said coldly, "No, I'm telling you, don't touch the water. That thing was painted by someone I hired." I looked up at the sky in speechless despair and returned to my own courtyard with a heavy heart. None of these women are of any use. On the 28th of the 12th lunar month, Chen Yu actually brought a woman home, and she was pregnant. She was new here, looking timid and hiding behind Chen Yu. The sleeve I had painstakingly ironed smooth for Chen Yu was now wrinkled in her hand. My eyes lit up. I rubbed my hands together, tears welling up. "Your child?" Chen Yu glanced at me indifferently. "Yes." Covering my mouth, I sobbed bitterly. "You're not lying to me." The woman timidly stepped out from behind, and in a spot where Chen Yu couldn't see, She gave me a provocative smile. Sister, please don't blame the minister. I came uninvited and have been rude. If you mind, I'll leave right away. I tightly grabbed her hand, held both her hands, and cried tears of joy. When will it be born? Can it be before the new year? For each day earlier, I'll add 30 taels of silver. The woman's smile froze. What? Chen Yu frowned, turned to the woman, and said, just settle in peacefully for now, we'll figure things out after the baby is born. He actually felt at ease leaving me behind, walking away without a backward glance under the woman's reluctant gaze. What a scumbag. I always thought it was impossible before, but how come it's possible now? As soon as Chen Yu left, I hurriedly waved to the 4 sisters behind me. Don't just stand there, we've got work to do. Aunt Mai swayed over gracefully, looking me up and down with disdain. Your belly is quite big, I can't handle it. The woman covered her belly in panic. What do you want to do? I hope so, I said. Why don't you give it a try? Aunt Mai snapped irritably. Damn it, I told you I can't handle it. She threw the measuring tape on the floor and stomped on it a few times, then said to me, if you force me to make clothes for pregnant women again, I'm going to lose my temper. Aunt Jiang circled around her and shook her head. No, we can't get along either, the woman said pitifully. It's Liana's fault for making sister angry. Aunt Jiang lowered her eyelids. No, it's because your belly is too big to carry the peeper. Aunt Lan said listlessly, Sister Jiang, she's here to have a child, not to compete for favor like us. You should be more mindful. Aunt Dun appeared on time. Mindful? What kind of mindful? Everyone. I sighed and patted the woman's shoulder. Your name is? My name is Balian. Balian, what a lovely name, I said enthusiastically, rubbing my hands together. By the way, let's not leave good things for after the new year. How about having the baby before the year ends? Balian looked troubled. Liana knows that Madam is eager for a child, but the Prime Minister said, safety comes first. We must not rush. A light breeze blew past. 4 faces remained expressionless. Aunt Jiang, hey, let's disperse. We can't play. Aunt Dun. No eggs to eat in the first month. How boring. Aunt Mai, eat a little less. Be careful of a difficult childbirth. Aunt Lan, hehe. So Versailles, the household was bustling for a while because of Bai Lian's arrival. My back no longer ached, my legs no longer hurt, and whenever I had free time, I helped her run up and down, serving tea and water. Under my coercion and bribery, Aunt Mai tailored a jacket embroidered with a huge white lotus for Balian. When she handed it to me, she shot me a glance and said, Sister, as the proper wife of the household, to have stooped to this level, I can't even hold my head up high. I smiled without a word. Not being able to hold one's head up is nothing compared to having no head to hold up at all. Later, somehow, rumors began to spread in the mansion that the mistress was about to be replaced. Actually, this time they guessed right. If after the new year, I am seized by the Empress Dowager and brought to justice, the lady of the Prime Minister's residence will have to be replaced. On the 30th of the 12th lunar month, Chen Yu did not attend court and sent someone to summon me. I dropped the work in my hands and hurried anxiously to Chinga Garden. As I entered, one sleeve was still rolled up to my elbow, and I said briskly, Husband, what do you need? He glanced at my attire and gave me a rather cold look. Sit down and learn the qin. I'm completely baffled, to be honest. The favorite of the Empress Dowager is none other than Miss Bichuan from the Changfeng Pavilion. Why? Because she is both beautiful and sweet-voiced. Back in the day, she and I were both hidden guards, codenamed Flower. I am delicate and soft. More charming than a flower. Originally, I could have become a top courtesan, with earnings on par with Bichuaner. So why didn't it happen? Because I sing out of tune. Those who have suffered from my dreadful singing know that when Feng Ningwen opens her mouth, even the Changfeng Pavilion trembles 3 times. We had a peaceful year, but then Chen Yu suddenly got a wild idea and insisted that I play the qin. So be it, I've practiced before, it's just that every now and then. Funeral parlors come to my door to discuss collaborations. Chen Yu prepared a zither for me, clearly a fine instrument, with a tone that must be excellent. I suddenly gained a bit of confidence, quietly placed my fingers, and the next moment, played an unparalleled underworld melody. Chen Yu's face grew colder, his gaze shifting from scrutiny to sharpness, and finally, he closed his eyes and spoke coldly. Stop, don't touch it anymore. Outside the window, someone hurried in, Minister Chen. I heard it from afar, whose family is holding a funeral. How many people per table? My face stiffened, thinking that in this lifetime, I, Feng Ningwen, had never been so speechless. That person came in carrying a large figure. The qin you asked me to choose is here. Its sound is clear, like heavenly music. I suddenly realized that the qin I was playing was Chen Yu's, and the one in that person's arms was actually mine. No wonder, for someone who treasures their qin as much as their life. Not fighting me to the death was already being generous. I awkwardly stood up, shivered, and quietly shuffled away. Chen Yu raised a cold glance. Did I say you could leave? I immediately froze in place, forcing a smile. Then, shall I sing another one? Chen Yu held back his anger, veins bulging on his forehead, and after a long while, said to me, "Get out." The White Lotus's belly showed no sign of movement, and by New Year's Eve, I had gone mad. At the New Year's Eve palace banquet, Chen Yu, as the current Prime Minister, was invited to attend. As his wife, I accompanied him. What was in the palace? There was Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. According to the rules of our covert guards, I should have presented my head for failing the mission, but I was born a master of bargaining. Big red lanterns hung high, and at the mansion gate, Chen Yu stood at the foot of the steps, saying coldly, "Let go." "Won't let go." I gripped by Lian's sleeve, dead set on dragging her into the palace with me. Perhaps, upon seeing her round belly, the Empress Dowager might forget about my round head, for concubines huddled together inside the door, wearing expressions of disgust that seemed to say, "What heartless ingrates." Chen Yu remained silent for a long time before saying, "The Emperor won't give you double New Year's money just because you brought an extra person." Then he added, "Ah, I forgot, madam, at your age. Probably doesn't need New Year's money anymore. That dog of a man, he's still holding a grudge over me playing his qin." White Lotus said timidly, "Please don't argue because of me. I won't go." "Fine, no." Chen Yu and I spoke at the same time. He said yes. While I objected, the four women rolled their eyes dramatically, and with a loud bang, the Chen family's gate closed, leaving them to enjoy a lively New Year's Eve dinner inside. The three of us were left outside, staring at each other in disbelief. Finally, it was Chen Yu who gave in. All the way, Chen Yu leaned against the carriage wall with his eyes closed, not saying a word, his entire aura low and oppressive, as if one more word from me would make him throw me out. And rightly so. The women in the mansion had turned the world upside down, dragging his beloved concubine, who was about to give birth, jolting into the palace. How could he not be angry? The palace was completely refurbished, brightly lit. The palace banquet was grand and solemn. I sat beside Chen Yu, while Balian squeezed in behind. Before it even began, I keenly sensed a sharp gaze fixed on me. Instinctively, I looked over and was so frightened that all the hairs on my body stood on end. It was Princess Fuyin, the biological daughter of the Empress Dowager, the famously notorious second-generation royal. It is said that the men in her household, if lined up, could encircle the imperial city for a full week. Could it be that she has taken a fancy to Chen Yu? That would be disastrous. Fuyin is a person with a heavy heart of jealousy. The men she fancies are not allowed to marry or take concubines. Those like me, who entered her household early, would inevitably meet an abrupt and unexplained death one morning. The more I thought about it, the more frightened I became. I timidly hid behind Chen Yu, thinking to myself, this is like the flood washing away the Dragon King's temple, family turning against family. Princess, once I succeed and retire, I will surely clean Chen Yu up and deliver him tied to your bed. Thinking of the mascot, by Lian, I was startled. With a child, she would likely be even less able to escape Fu Yin's cruel hands. I hurriedly went to look for her, and when I turned around, there she was, a stunning beauty capable of making fish sink and geese fall, outshining the moon and shaming the flowers. What was Bai Lian doing? Her eyes were as alluring as a gentle breeze as she rested her head on her hand. Listening to Lord Su lament about his wife's violent temper, she sighed sorrowfully and praised, how could she not cherish such a good man like Lord Su? If it were me, I would never do such a thing. I looked back at Chen Yu's head with a complicated expression. He noticed my gaze and raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? I said. Your jade crown is rather inauspicious. As it happened, Fuin's attention wasn't on Balian either. After glancing at me a few times, she turned away and started chatting and laughing with others. I never expected that the palace banquet wasn't just about free food, it was also a showcase of talents. Watching the noble ladies compete in a dazzling display of beauty and skills, I drank until I was tipsy. Leaning close to Chen Yu, I slurred drunkenly, my dear minister. Look at the empire I've conquered for you. Chen Yu immediately covered my mouth, pulled me over, and pressed me against his chest as if subduing a duck. In a barely audible voice, he warned me, I don't want to take a concubine. Behave yourself. He carried a faint scent of pinewood, calm and understated. It was hard to believe that such a man had slept with 5 women. That spine-chilling sense of danger returned. I shivered, shaking off my drowsiness. just as a cold, haughty female voice spoke up ahead. "I've long heard that the Prime Minister's wife is multitalented. I'm tired of poetry and songs. Why don't you take the stage? If it's too cliché, beware of punishment." My drunkenness was scared right out of me. Multitalented? Since when? I shot a pleading glance toward the Empress Dowager, who picked up a piece of hawthorn cake and contentedly popped it into her mouth. Only Chen Yu remarked indifferently, "No playing the zither." It turns out that Chen Yu didn't teach me the zither for no reason. He had long anticipated this day's ordeal. "Unfortunately, I truly have no talent for it. I'll compose a poem for you to recite," Chen Yu resignedly said. "It's better than nothing." His literary talent was naturally excellent and indeed unconventional, but others aren't foolish. How could they not know that the astonishing masterpiece from my lips was written by Chen Yu? It would only displease Princess Fuyin, leading her to harm me directly in the palace. Might as well just dance, I sighed. Once, Eunuch Wang had taught me how to dance. He said that if one mastered this dance to perfection, with a slow twist of the slender waist, it could enchant and captivate, enough to topple cities and kingdoms. In the end, only Bai Chunna from the Changfeng Pavilion and I graduated. Just thinking about it makes me angry. If I hadn't, at the last moment, failed to hold back and let out a loud note, throwing the musician off tune, the one laughing in the Changfeng Pavilion would have been me. Besides dancing, I also know how to poison and assassinate, but it wouldn't do to kill myself just to liven up the music, so I nervously asked Chen Yu, Could you play a tune for me?" "Which one?" "Peach Blossoms Adorned." Chen Yu gazed at me quietly for a long moment before lowering her eyes and instructing the palace attendant, "Bring a zither. Once dancing is etched into one's bones, it can never be separated from you again." The moment the music flowed, my body seemed to have a will of its own, my sleeves swaying. Graceful and elegant, it's all Chen Yu's fault for playing so well, instantly evoking a deep, soulful resonance within me. I knew I could do it. Those once infatuated, lingering, greedy gazes surrounded me once again. Can't help it, my charm is just that irresistible. Clang. Chen Yu played a wrong note, obviously and deliberately. I gradually came to a halt and looked over. Chen Yu's expression was calm, but for no reason, I felt he was in a rather bad mood. Chen Yu stood up and bowed respectfully to Fuyin. "Your Highness, please forgive me. I am drunk and my hand is unsteady." Fuyin smiled at the corners of her lips, but her gaze was cold. "I think, Lord Chen, it's not that your hand is unsteady, but that your heart is unsteady, isn't it?" He spoke unhurriedly. "My humble wife lacks talent and might tarnish your Highness's discerning eyes. There is truly no need for her to continue dancing." He criticized me, but I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Not acting wasn't an option, but acting would only invite jealousy. It was better to give up halfway and seek a compromise. The Empress Dowager spoke up. "I see the Prime Minister's wife is tired. Perfect timing. Come with me to the side hall for a rest. Here she comes. Here she comes. She's here to pressure me about having a child." With a serious expression, I lowered my head and acknowledged her words. As soon as I entered the side hall, I shamelessly threw myself at the Empress Dowager's feet, slid down, and pleaded tearfully, "Your Majesty, spare me. The pregnant woman is right outside. Given time, she will surely bear a son." The Empress Dowager kicked me but failed to budge me. Then angrily said, "Useless thing. Chen Yu is in his prime, and you're not lacking either. I don't understand. For a whole year, you've just been chatting under the quilt." Tears welled up in my eyes, and I was dumbfounded. "You mean I should bear a child, otherwise?" The Empress Dowager roared. "Let that ugly white flower outside bear it. You are the one I handpicked. You can give birth to the most beautiful child in the world. Tonight, I can spare your life, but next year, I must see a child that comes out of your belly." Listening to the old witch roar at me, I finally understood she wasn't just obsessed with having a child, she was a severe looks-obsessed control freak. But he's not very capable." I voiced my concern. The Empress Dowager's fierce expression froze. "What do you mean not capable? In what way?" I wiped the sweat from my forehead. It's down there. Why have others conceived, but not you?" The Empress Dowager coldly interrupted me. "Always look for the reason within yourself. A woman must never say she is not capable." That night, after undergoing a thorough brainwashing, I walked out of the side hall as if I had lost my soul. My ears kept echoing, "A woman must never say no." I sighed and looked up at the moon. Actually, taking matters into my own hands wasn't that hard to accept. After all, Chen Yu was good-looking, though a bit dull, and might not be very capable. Thump. I bumped into someone. The impact sent me stumbling backward a few steps. when suddenly an arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me back and binding me tightly against a chest. A faint scent of pinewood mixed with a light aroma of alcohol, along with a strange, burning heat, brushed against my ear. "Don't make a sound." It was Chen Yu. "He's not at the banquet right now. What's he doing in this out-of-the-way corner? Damn it, where did he go?" From behind the dense vines next door came Fuin's furious roar. The cooked duck flew away. How annoying. I widened my eyes in astonishment. Fuin, the heroine, was trying to force herself on someone in the middle of the night. What a thrill. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of footsteps gradually faded away. I was held in Chen Yu's arms, his lips pressed against the shell of my ear, gently rubbing. His hot breath stirred my hair, tickling my ear, and I couldn't help but shrink my neck. The surroundings were quiet. Just as I was about to push him away, Chen Yu's hand suddenly slipped under my blouse. His rough thumb glided over my skin, instantly making all the hairs on my body stand on end. I stiffened like a block of wood, my face flushed red with embarrassment. His large hand moved to the small of my back, pressing down gently, sending a tingling sensation throughout my entire body. I couldn't help but gasp in surprise, then heard him chuckle softly. "Ning Wn. I never knew your waist was this slender." Hush. Reason exploded in the mind like brilliant fireworks. What's going on? Is this still the same Chen Yu, cold and aloof, who never gave me a good look? You. He pressed me against the artificial rock, his voice full of desire and unapologetic as he whispered in my ear. "I'm sorry, my lady, I've been drugged." Chen Yu is not himself. Not only are his hands restless, but his eyes are like a wolf's, burning with a predatory intensity before pouncing on its prey. My back pressed against the rockery. I grabbed the vines and scrambled upward. "If you've been drugged, find a doctor. Why come to me?" Chen Yu seized the back of my collar with one large hand, plucking me from the vines, and pinned me down firmly once again. He cupped my cheeks. His stern face tinged with a hint of desire, pressing his forehead against mine, his breath scorching hot. "Just help me out." Such a contrast is utterly irresistible. But I still struggled. "You come home with me. There are 4 people at home who can help, 1 helper or all together. It's up to you." Chen Yu pinched my waist with just the right amount of force, and I instantly melted into a puddle. "Help me to the lake." Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. I was taken aback. It turned out he had no interest in me. While despising myself, I felt a wave of pity for him. Was he truly beyond cure, with no medicine able to save him? If even Fuin's medicine had lost its effect, then who in the entire world could possibly help Chen Yu regain his vigor? At that moment, I felt a pang of compassion. Maybe, try again. If you're sick, you shouldn't soak in cold water. It might just make things worse. Chen Yu breathed heavily, his eyelids lifting. "You're willing to try." I remembered the Empress Dowager's instructions, steeled my heart, and said, "Let's give it a try then. Let me see just how incapable Chen Yu really is." Chen Yu lifted my chin, his lips pressing down, the cold touch making me shiver. "Excellent. Full marks for the sensation." He pinched my cheek. "Open your mouth." "Why open your mouth?" Chen Yu impatiently cut off my question, his hand gripping my waist as he lifted me into the air, holding me steady. "Not bad. Full marks for strength. Later." It was as if I had lost my mind, diving headfirst into the web Chen Yu had woven. The 2 of them tumbled about, lost in passion, and somehow stumbled their way into an empty palace hall. Chen Yu held me with one hand, kissing me deeply, while his other hand reached back and casually pushed open a door, pulling me into the darkness. The door closed, and they clung to each other. Rip, the sound of silk tearing, and the dull thud of heavy court robes falling to the floor. Slipped quietly into the moonlight. "Damn it, don't pull," I said. "Don't speak. Kiss me." The golden hairpins trembled, quivered with pleasure, emitting clear, melodious clinks. In the thick of the night, it lingers on and on. 1 hour later, with a creak, Chen Yu and I, impeccably dressed, stepped out of the door in unison. Both of us looked composed, standing side by side with our sleeves tucked, utterly at ease. "Prime Minister, the moonlight is truly beautiful tonight," I said. Chen Yu said coldly, "Not bad." An awkward silence fell. I cleared my throat softly and took a step forward. A numbing tightness shot through my leg, piercing deep into the bone, and my waist weakened, nearly causing me to kneel. Chen Yu steadied me and said calmly, "It's out." I looked down to see the crimson mandarin duck bellaband still hanging from my waistband, fluttering in the wind. I frantically yanked the thing out from under my jacket, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it fiercely at Chen Yu's feet. "You beast in gentleman's clothing. Why weren't you more careful when you tore it?" Chen Yu narrowed his eyes, staring at my chest as if his gaze could penetrate through the clothing. "Isn't it uncomfortable being bare?" I said. "Let me tell you, a woman's affairs are none of your business." He seemed to have grasped the situation, raised an eyebrow, and said cheerfully, "As long as you're willing." I said I was going to lie down in the side hall. While Chen Yu returned to the banquet first, as soon as I entered the door, my legs gave way, and with a thud, I prostrated myself in a full bow before the altar. Looking up, I saw a gleaming golden statue of the child-giving Guanyin. Supporting my aching back, I tearfully kowtowed 3 times to the goddess of childbirth, silently praying, "Oh, Bodhisattva, please bless Chen Yu to have a son with this one try." Another hour of this, and even an iron body wouldn't be able to take it. After that, I slowly crawled onto the small couch, lay down, let out a comfortable sigh, and before I knew it, I fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a swaying carriage. The moonlight was dim, and it took me a while to adjust before I could see Chen Yu sitting upright beside me, meditating with his eyes closed. I scanned the room once more. "Where is my white lotus flower?" I jolted awake in horror, sitting up. My child, my child." Chen Yu was roused by my noise. Opening his eyes and speaking calmly, "What's the panic? It's still in your belly." As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere froze. "How did you know it's in my belly?" "Of course I know, I'm the one who handled it." In the cramped carriage, our eyes slowly met. A bolt of electricity shot through me. "Something is rising." Surging from the depths of my heart, a pause. The next moment, Chen Yu abruptly closed in, his tone icy calm. "The drug's effects are kicking in again." I reached up, hooked my arm around his neck, tugged at his collar, and pulled him closer, speaking hurriedly. "Enough with the nonsense. Regret. In short, I'm just filled with regret." In the brightly lit courtyard, facing the questioning from my 4 aunts, I lowered my head and shed tears of remorse. Aunt Jiang said impatiently, "Isn't it just serving the Prime Minister? What's there to feel sorry to us about, in this courtyard? Who hasn't served him, if you ask me? It's because you slacked off that we had to bear the burden." Half moved and half guilty, I thought to myself, "Yes, standing for an hour, really, isn't easy." Aunt Jiang looked at me suspiciously. "An hour? He spent an hour at your place." I trembled. "Isn't it the same at your place?" Aunt Jiang revealed a triumphant smile. "The Chancellor only stays at my place for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea." I thought to myself, "Is this something to be happy about?" Aunt Lan looked envious. "I get 3/4 of an hour. What's so great about envy? Isn't longer better?" Aunt Mai said. "As for me, I usually keep him for the time it takes an incense stick to burn." Aunt Dun, munching on a sugar pastry, silently raised her hand. I'm the same as the mistress. It's 2 hours for me." "It turns out Chen Yu is the type who prefers honest and straightforward men," Aunt Mai, filing her nails, said leisurely. "But the Chancellor hasn't been lasting long lately either." Aunt Lan sighed and said listlessly, "Perhaps it's his age, his energy is waning." My heart was filled with worry when I heard Aunt Jiang complain. Exactly, last time I read 2 pages of The Art of War and made 2 mistakes, and he didn't even point them out. I've even taken out my virility powder, and this is what I get to hear. So Chen Yu staying overnight at Aunt Jiang's place was just to proofread for her. Aunt Mai said irritably, "I used to be able to stitch 10 soles in one night, but now he gets up and leaves as soon as I start the 4th one." "Oh, so Chen Yu stays up late into the night with Aunt Mai, watching her stitch shoe soles," Aunt Dun said with a serious expression. "I'm doing all right. The Prime Minister eats well and isn't picky." Hehe, no wonder Aunt Dun is looking more and more blessed. "Well-fed, indeed," Aunt Lan said listlessly. "I'm not like you all, I want to climb into bed." I finally showed a relieved smile, Lan Yinyang said, "But he made me recite Tang poetry." My smile froze on my face. "In the night." Lan Yinyang's gaze was icily cold, and damn it, it was 300 poems. I finally understood it wasn't that Chen Yu was incompetent, it was that they had no brains. And Chen Yu happens to be good at dealing with the brainless. They all turned to look at me. "What did the Prime Minister ask you to do?" Under the moonlight, the reflections of 4 expectant and curious faces appeared in my pupils. I suddenly realized that human sorrows and joys are not truly shared. At this moment, I only found them unbearably noisy. Later I heard that White Lotus was brought back after being seized by the official wife of Lord Su. Lady Su crouched at the doorway, facing the tall lintel of Chen Yu's house, cursing loudly and nearly splashing some filth on the ground. Lord Su remained as quiet as a chicken, keeping his head down and saying nothing. White Lotus felt she had lost face and shut herself in for several days, refusing to see even me, but this wouldn't do. If she is lucky enough to give birth to a beautiful child, it might just save me from this dire situation. I have always been good at bargaining, but after much thought. I nervously sought out Chen Yu. It had been 3 days since we last met. Today, he was dressed in a white outfit, with a neat collar and not a single wrinkle on his clothes, sitting at the table, reading a book with his head down. When he saw me coming, he barely lifted his eyelids and asked coldly, "What is it?" Well, and here I was, all nervous and fidgeting, having prepared my words, while he acted as if he had amnesia. I smiled and stepped inside. "I heard that Balian has been feeling unsettled lately. When you have time, Your Excellency, you should go check on her more often." "Oh, for the child's sake?" Chen Yu asked indifferently. I was taken aback, my thoughts exposed by him, and I unconsciously scratched my lips. "Ah, your child is naturally mine as well. Why would it be yours?" I looked up in disbelief. "How could it not be mine? By Lian's, I'm the mistress, I must have children of my own." Chen Yu raised an eyebrow calmly. "Oh, the mistress." Then his gaze slowly fell on my belly, and he said unhurriedly, "Then wait and see." "What does he mean by wait and see?" Chen Yu narrowed his eyes. "Although I am extremely confident, what if by then?" "Never mind, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it." As the legitimate wife, I struggle to even ask for a child. Look at the neighbor's household. The mistress has raised 4 children already, and she scolds me with such confidence, calling me a hen that can't lay eggs. Feeling frustrated, I summoned the 4 concubines to discuss a major plan together. I asked, "How does the Chancellor usually treat you?" I never cared about this question before, but today I suddenly felt like asking it. Aunt Dun, unusually enthusiastic, said, "Not bad at all. He buys me sugar cakes and freshly baked yunpian cakes." Aunt Mai, with her head lowered, held a pair of scissors as big as her face and trimmed her nails. "The Prime Minister is quite good. The fashionable fabrics from the capital are delivered to my room on schedule." Aunt Jiang, holding her new peeper, twirled around. "Pretty, pretty. The Prime Minister bought it for me." Lan Yinyang was in rare high spirits today, her face glowing with radiance. "I only have one last Tang poem left to memorize. The Prime Minister rewarded me with a deluxe edition set as an incentive." This wasn't Chen Yu at all, it was practically the god of wealth in disguise. They asked me, "What about the lady of the house? What did he give you?" I slowly lowered my head, staring at my stomach, lost in thought. Seeing my displeasure, Aunt Mai suddenly asked, "Could it be, it wasn't delivered?" My heart sank even more, and I gulped down the tea one mouthful after another. Aunt Mai stopped me. "Even if you're upset, you can't gulp it down like that. It's not wine. Drinking too much of this stuff will only make you bloated, it won't do anything else." I irritably ruffled my hair and noticed the 4 of them looking at me with immense sympathy. Aunt Jiang said, "What woman is like you, fighting with the mistress next door every day, even throwing stones over the wall? All you think about is having children, with no sense of romance at all." Aunt Lan said disdainfully. Aunt Mai lifted my sleeve and shook it. "This fabric is from years ago. It's not even fashionable in the capital anymore. In a crowd, you'd disappear like a clay ox in the sea. It needs to be changed." So, Aunt Mai took my measurements and tailored a goose yellow, high-waisted long dress for me. "What a slender waist." Aunt Mai slapped my waist. "Give it a little twist." Seeing me hesitate, she struck a pose, swaying like a bewitched water snake in front of me. "Just like this, understand?" I imitated her, swaying like a water snake. Aunt Lan commented, "Loosen up your posture. Don't crane your neck like a stiff goose." I can dance, but in everyday life, putting it into practice is truly difficult. For the 800th time, Aunt Lan called a stop. She looked utterly hopeless, saying, "The way you move your hands and feet in sync is exactly like my half-paralyzed stepmother." As dusk fell, Aunt Dun brought over a bowl of carefully brewed medicinal soup, saying it was to nourish Chen Yu. The results of a day's training finally had a chance to be showcased. The 4 of them eagerly rubbed their hands together, pinned me in front of the mirror, and gave me a thorough makeover. "Don't lose heart, sway your hips as you go in, soften your voice, you know how to act cute." "Right, of course I do. I am Yin Wei Weihua, a top performer. There's no reason I should fail because of Chen Yu." I nodded solemnly, took Aunt Dun's medicinal tonic, and carrying the hopes of my elders and fellow villagers, stepped alone into Chen Yu's courtyard. Stopping at the doorway, I pitched my voice and said, "Husband, have you retired for the night?" After a long while, rustling sounds came from inside the room, and the door opened. Chen Yu, wearing only his undergarments, stood calmly in the doorway. "What is it?" I cleared my throat. I made a pot of soup and specially brought it over for you." Chen Yu stared at me for a long moment, his brow furrowing deeper and deeper. "Are you a clip? Stop straining your voice and speak normally." I said, "Let me treat you to some soup." Chen Yu finally made a gap, letting me into the house. It was my first time in Chen Yu's house. The interior was clean and tidy, elegantly decorated, and just like him. Terrifyingly simple. I placed the soup on the table, swayed my hips, and turned around. "Shall we have it now?" Chen Yu's gaze fell on my waist, and he narrowed his eyes. "Where did you get these clothes?" I twirled around, unable to contain my delight. "Do they look good?" he said. "Did you walk all the way here like this, flaunting yourself?" I blinked. If I didn't walk over, should I have crawled? He took a deep breath, his brow furrowing even tighter. "Stop squirming, sit down. This isn't what the think tank said would happen." Chen Yu's expression was now full of disdain. Clearly, the attempt to coax her had missed the mark. Was my squirming not appealing enough? I don't believe in superstitions. I circled around Chen Yu, the candle flames in the room flickering wildly from the breeze I stirred with my fragrant presence. "Prime Minister, let's continue our earlier discussion. Can you give me the child or not?" A vein throbbed on Chen Yu's forehead as he gritted his teeth. "I told you to sit down." Eagerly, I picked up the bowl of soup. "How about having a sip first to calm your anger?" Chen Yu lowered his gaze. Looking at the medicinal stew I had uncovered, an old drake lay quietly submerged in the broth. Silence. A long time later, "Tonic." His voice was so soft it could barely be heard, as if ignited with anger, and he suddenly moved closer to me. "You think I need a tonic?" How was I to know that Aunt Dun, with her clever hands, had stewed an old drake for Chen Yu and brought it over? For a moment, I was at a loss for words. This isn't me." He sneered, took it over, and drank it in one gulp. "Come here." Alarm bells went off in my mind. "No," he smiled. "Come here, I'll give you a child." White Lotus. He smiled without speaking. The next moment, he suddenly struck, swift as a shadow. I reacted instinctively, chopping at his wrist with my palm, and dashed toward the door. Suddenly, something struck the acupuncture point at my waist, and the teacup shattered in response. I was numb from the waist down, let out a sharp cry, and was about to crash into the doorframe when an arm wrapped around my abdomen, pulling me back into someone's embrace. Bang! The door slammed shut right in front of my eyes. "So you know Kung Fu?" Chen Yu pressed close behind me, his tone cool and unhurried. My hair stood on end, and I turned the tables. "You know it too? What a coincidence." "It is quite a coincidence." Chen Yu's tone was light, but I could hear the careless indifference in it, two subtle sounds. "And the fabric at my waist suddenly loosened." "The skirt is too tight." "I loosened it for you." Chen Yu offered an explanation for his action. I frowned, grabbing the fabric at my waist and pulling it tight. "I don't care, I want it tight." "Don't flatter yourself. Let go." Chen Yu argued with me. Seeing that I was really resisting, Chen Yu said, "I know you have a slim waist. That's enough. Who else do you want to know? I want the whole world to." "Hey, don't carry me. What are you doing?" "Vulgar." Chen Yu hoisted me over his shoulder and carried me inside. I yelled, "I'm a country bumpkin. My waist is the slimmest in the world, MMPH. "So, did you end up using it?" Auntie Dun asked with curiosity. I lay limply on the small couch, lifting my eyelids listlessly. "You mean that old drake?" "I didn't eat it, just drank the soup, and then it was like I was possessed." Auntie Dun's eyes sparkled, looking every bit like a charlatan trying to swindle money, just like Dr. Ouyang. "Madam, this is a secret imperial recipe, all the essence is in the soup." I turned over, took a deep breath, and called out to Auntie Dun, "Come here, give me a rub here." My back aches and my legs are sore. That day, Chen Yu, for the first time ever, brought 2 liang of high-quality pastries to see me. I was slumped listlessly on the small couch, watching him walk in, come up to me, and lean down. Still not better. I kept a stiff face. "Why didn't you bring 2 gin of eggs instead?" Chen Yu smiled. "Well, I was afraid of mocking you, a hen that doesn't lay eggs." I was furious and raised my foot to kick, but my bare foot was caught in Chen Yu's hand. He even casually traced his fingertip across the sole. "Madam, take good care of yourself a while longer." He placed the pastry aside. "They say you are what you eat." I opened my eyes. "What to make up? What are you talking about?" He tucked my leg back under the quilt. "This pastry has another name, Beauty's Waist." This guy is definitely getting back at me for the old Drake incident. Lying in bed, I cried out to heaven with no answer, to earth with no relief. Chen Yu sat silently beside me, holding a bowl of tea, sipping it slowly. "I'm barely breathing." "Are you waiting for me to die?" "Not exactly." He set down the tea bowl and said quite seriously, "I just want to ask, who sent you?" I held my forehead and groaned. "This lady is too weak, not fit to answer that question." "I didn't use much force to begin with," Chen Yu said. "What a way to spoil the New Year festivities." I turned over, not wanting to deal with him. Chen Yu fell silent for a long moment. Madam, there's something I'm not sure if I should say. The princess is going to marry into the family. I suddenly turned over, staring at him with both eyes. Got it. What do you get? Chen Yu said calmly. I'll go die to make room for the princess. Chen Yu's expression remained unchanged as he patted my waist. I came to ask you if your master behind the scenes is willing to help you. I watched him warily, not understanding what he was up to. Chen Yu smiled. I, a humble and untalented man, wish to protect the lady's life. But I am not a diligent person by nature. If someone else is willing to take on the task, I would gladly save myself the effort. He paused mid-sentence, his gaze drifting downward to where I was clinging to his leg. And raised an eyebrow. I chuckled awkwardly. Don't skimp on the effort when it's not meant to be saved. I was worried he wouldn't understand, so I added, take good care of the princess. All right, with a family to support, all the sisters in the mansion are counting on you. Chen Yu lowered his head. After a long silence, he slowly reached out and pried my fingers off his leg, one by one. I never thought I could be so blind. With that, he walked away without looking back. I got so worked up that a few pimples popped up. I contacted Eunuch Wang overnight, and old Wang said the mission remains unchanged. I have to deceive Fu Yin's sharp eyes and somehow produce a child. The day after learning of this, I got up as usual and went to loiter outside Bailian's door, hoping she would give birth before the princess enters the mansion. Or else my life would be in danger. Aunt Mai lived next door. Early in the morning, she pushed open the window, yawned, opened her eyes and saw me, then suddenly shivered violently, took a few steps back, and looked at me in fear. Why is there a hornet's nest on your face? Aunt Lan poked her head out from the window at the sound, let out a cry, and fainted. Aunt Jiang grabbed my arm from behind and dragged me outside. Madam, you must leave quickly. Don't scare the white lotus into an early labor. Later, I stared at my pimple-covered face in the mirror and fell into silence. Great, I'm disfigured. As the day of the princess's arrival at the mansion drew nearer, my anxiety grew with each passing day. How to survive and seek development while caught between the two formidable forces of Fu Yin and the Empress Dowager had become a crucial issue. I spent my days lying on the small couch in my room, refusing to step outside. The carefree joy of joking and bantering was gone. Now, when they played mahjong, they would rather call Auntie Dun than invite me. I have fallen out of favor. Late one night, someone knocked on my door. I covered my face with the handkerchief and muttered gloomily, I'm asleep. The door creaked open as someone pushed it. In the entire mansion, aside from Chen Yu, there was no one else who dared to be so brazenly bold. I pulled the quilt over my head and said nothing. After a while, someone lifted the cover and said calmly, lying there like that, I almost had to arrange a funeral feast. In the warm air, our eyes met, and an inexplicable emotion gently rose between us, so intense and uncontrollable that it swelled in our chests until it reached its peak, and we spoke at the same time. What happened? Get lost. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Then I'll be gentle. After a while, Chen Yu sighed. Madam, being gentle won't break it. All right then, I'll bear with it. Hurry up, please. Chen Yu hummed in agreement and applied more force with his hand. With a pop, one of the pimples burst. He put the needle back over the flame to sterilize it, then said to me, move your hand. Next one. Gritting my teeth and closing my eyes, I whimpered, when will it heal? When it scabs over. I looked at him with emotion. It's really great that you don't despise me. Clang. Chen Yu threw away the needle and even tossed the handkerchief I used to wipe my face into the brazier. After washing his hands 3 times, he finally looked up and asked, what did you just say? I smiled calmly and said, nothing, just praising your good looks. Chen Yu dried his hands and said indifferently, I know. I put the cloth back over my face and lay down flat. Chancellor, marrying the princess is actually quite good. I lifted a corner of the cloth and stole a glance at him. Just as he was looking at me too, I flustered and averted my eyes. I will leave as soon as the child is born. You probably won't be able to leave, Chen Yu said in a gentle and calm tone. There have been many men in Princess Fu Yin's residence. But have you ever heard of her being pregnant? My gaze fell on his face again, and a strange, bold thought suddenly emerged. She can't bear children, perhaps. Chen Yu remained unmoved. I suspect you were sent by the Empress Dowager. I sat up abruptly. Brilliant. Chen Yu's face turned cold. Are you out of your mind? In this situation, you should vehemently deny it. Seeing me silent like a block of wood, Chen Yu's forehead twitched with a bulging vein. You should know that giving birth to this child is only paving the way for Fu Yin. Eliminate the mother to keep the child. Do I need to make it any clearer? My face turned pale with fear. The Empress Dowager has always doted on Fuyin. Since she couldn't bear a child herself, she found someone else to do it for her. Once the child is born, and the husband secured, Fuyin would simply reap the benefits without lifting a finger. Chen Yu stood up and walked toward me. For a whole year, I've kept you at a distance. Do you understand why? I was too shocked to speak. Chen Yu, however, had no intention of letting me off. He sat by the bed, pulling me close to him. Did you think it was fun listening to someone recite the art of war, memorizing Tang poetry, watching people stitch shoe soles? He sneered. All of this is trouble you brought upon me. He blew out the candle, and in the darkness, the rustling sound of him undressing could be heard. Feng Ningwen, I've endured for a year. If you hadn't bumped into me that day, I could have kept enduring. He lifted the quilt and slipped in. Since it started, I'll trouble you, madam, to take it to heart. Let you off. What are you thinking? Wait, it's pitch black. I can't see a thing, I exclaimed. Chen Yu sneered. No lighting allowed. You think I'm ugly? I asked softly. How can you even bring yourself to kiss me when I look like this? Let's just make do. We can't separate anyway. In the darkness, I asked. What if I am pregnant? If you are, then we'll have the baby. Then, what about Fuyin? Leave it to me. A long moment passed. Hey, Chen Yu said. What are you laughing at? It's my first time liking someone. I'm happy. Chen Yu. I poked Chen Yu in the dark. I said I like you. Did you catch that? Chen Yu retorted irritably. What a coincidence. I like myself too. Fuyin entered the mansion on a sunny and pleasant morning. I tidied myself up, put on my veil, and led a group of concubines to give Fuyin a warm welcome. She was dressed in palace attire, opulent and grand, her skirt held up by 4 palace maids, with someone above holding an umbrella for her. Standing at the entrance of the main hall, she swept her gaze around, then smiled disdainfully. I, the princess, am well aware that my reputation is less than stellar. As for the 3 letters and 6 rights, I won't bother with them. Let's just go through the motions simply. From now on, I am the master, and you are the servants. Know your place. The matron beside her respectfully opened a register, cleared her throat, and began to announce, in this household, there is one principal wife. Fuyin raised her delicate jade-like finger and pointed at me. You, give up the position of principal wife to me. I nodded and bowed. Yes, yes, yes. Fuyin raised her eyebrows in surprise, a slight smile curling her red lips as she signaled the matron to continue. Concubine Ji Mailan, Concubine Lan, her face downcast, prostrated herself on the ground. Your humble servant pays respects to the princess. What are your special skills? Aunt Lan drooped her head dejectedly. I can recite 300 Tang poems, Fuyin said with a cold expression. Next, concubine Jiang Cheng'e. Aunt Jiang held the pipa and bowed gracefully. Fuyin narrowed her eyes. You know how to play the pipa. Aunt Jiang smiled, gently plucking the strings. Good heavens, if my music was meant to send people off. Aunt Jiang's music was practically challenging the king of hell himself. Fuyin's temples throbbed with anger as she said to the matron, smash that pipa for her. All right, Aunt Jiang, quick as lightning, flung the pipa away, and it smashed to pieces on the rocks. Concubine by Fu Mei, Aunt Mai, with great enthusiasm, pulled 6 shoe soles from her bundle and handed them out one by one like a vendor. Please accept these humble gifts. I may not be good at much, but my skill in stitching shoe soles is top-notch. The matron stared blankly at the shoe sole in her hand, lost in thought, and murmured, Princess, this sole is really well made. Fuyin's words were forced through gritted teeth. Next, oh, the concubine Kai Iduan. Concubine Dun shifted her plump body and said slowly, this humble one can eat and cook. Fuyin sneered a few times. Has Chen Yu lost his mind, taking you all into the mansion? Each one of you is a crooked gourd and a cracked date. Haven't you looked at yourselves in the mirror? Enough. Next, the nanny stole a glance at Fuyin and whispered, in the mansion, there is one concubine who is with child. Fuyin lifted her eyelids and said, poison her to death. I dropped to my knees with a thud. Your Highness, that is the Prime Minister's only child. In the future, there may not be another. I raised my eyes and cautiously observed Fuyin, only to see her frown. What do you mean? There won't be any in the future. I steeled my heart, to protect the child. I had no choice but to wrong Chen Yu. Plop, a packet of virility powder fell out of my sleeve. I frantically covered it with my sleeve, only to hear Fuyin sneer, what are you hiding? Let me see it too. The nanny kicked me aside and snatched it away. Only when I was sure Fuyin had seen the words aphrodisiac powder did I straighten up and shout loudly, those without children, count off. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 concubines responded with full vigor, very supportive. Especially Aunt Lan, who usually wore a mournful face but now looked particularly like a resentful wife. Fuyin was so startled that her hand trembled, and the virility powder fell to the ground. Her emotions shifted from shock and confusion to suspicion, disbelief, and gradually turned into rage. I trembled in fear and, under her furious gaze, timidly uttered a single word, 5. Chen Yu was impotent, and after Fuyin found out, she went mad with anger, like a bull with reddened eyes. She stormed into the study. Not until her figure disappeared from sight did I collapse to the ground, drenched in cold sweat. My 4 concubines, their faces pale, gathered around me. Madam, we've passed this hurdle. But what about the future? I suddenly sprang to my feet. Quick, tie Balian up and put her in the carriage, send her away to lay low for a while. And the Chancellor, the princess has gone to find the Chancellor. I wiped the sweat from my brow. Forget it, forget it. If it doesn't work out, so be it. After all, it's to protect his child. The 4 of them scrambled to carry the wailing Balian into the carriage. Balian, her eyes red with fury, cried out, Feng Ningwen, I will never rest until you're destroyed. I rolled up my sleeves and raised my hand. Slap. Aunt Jiang had already struck her across the face, snarling fiercely, I could smash the peeper I've treasured for years without a second thought. And now you think you're being wronged by lying low for a while. Who has wronged you? Who do you think you're vowing to destroy? If you don't want Fuyin to cut your belly open, shut your mouth. White Lotus's face bore a huge slap mark, and she was utterly stunned, her eyes quickly welling up with tears. I want to see the Prime Minister. My heart ached with bitterness. I almost forgot that White Lotus was carrying Chen Yu's child. Hitting her would surely make Chen Yu blame me if he found out. Aunt Mai picked up a rag and stuffed it into her mouth, then stepped out of the carriage and waved her hand. Go. Watching the carriage gradually fade into the distance, I sighed, feeling a heavy, suffocating ache in my chest. At first, it was to complete my task and protect the child, but later I felt pity. A life shouldn't be denied the right to exist. Now I suddenly realized that it was Chen Yu's own flesh and blood. Perhaps in Chen Yu's heart, Balian and the child mattered more, otherwise, he wouldn't have told me to watch for the right moment to help Balian leave the estate. I turned around and said to the concubines, the estate is in turmoil now, you're free to leave whenever you wish. After a long silence, Concubine Jiang was the first to speak. I haven't avenged Peeper yet. I'm not going anywhere. Lady Mai smiled. I have received many gifts from the Prime Minister and you, madam. I am not an ungrateful person. Lady Lan hesitated for a moment, lowering her head silently. Madam, I have finished reciting the Tang poems. I wish to leave, as expected. I nodded. Very well. Let me know if you need travel expenses. Lady Lan's eyes reddened. I thank you, madam. Aunt Dun blinked and said honestly, Madam, the Prime Minister promised me before that if I ever wanted to leave, I could do so at any time. I want to go to Changfeng Tower to learn culinary skills. If the ladies of Changfeng Tower are its first wonder, then its cuisine is the second. I nodded. That's fine too. With 3 of the 5 aunts gone at once, at night, I sat in the courtyard with the remaining 2, feeling utterly bored. Now that there are fewer people, we can't even gather enough for a game of mahjong. Aunt Mai said listlessly. Aunt Jiang's face darkened. 2 little traitors. They just ran off without a word. I looked up at the sky. Night had already fallen. Tonight is the night the princess and the Prime Minister consummate their marriage, isn't it? After these words, the surroundings fell silent. Aunt Jiang sniffed the air and turned to Aunt Mai. Do you smell vinegar? Aunt Mai pulled a long face. Not only do I smell it, I see it too. What a huge jar of vinegar. I irritably rubbed my hair, sprang to my feet, and rolled up my sleeves. They both widened their eyes. What are you going to do? Fight? Both of them looked excited. I've had it with that old hag for a long time. Look at what she came here for today, calling out names one by one. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was reading a menu, and that one who holds the princess's dress is also asking for a beating. She gave me several dirty looks. I leisurely rolled up my sleeves and picked up a stone, holding it in my hand. Who said I was going to pick a fight with the princess? Then who are you looking for? Next door. Didn't you lose the last fight? I'm going to settle the score for you. Aunt Jiang shrank back. There's a murderous aura. Aunt Mai had already rushed to the doorway, rubbing her temples. Oh dear, I've caught a slight chill and won't be able to keep you company. Madam, I went to the west courtyard, carrying a stone, and slowly paced back and forth a few times before suddenly swinging my arm with full force and hurling it toward the neighboring yard. In the latter half of the night, Madam Zhong and I got into a fight at the back door. The noise of our quarrel woke the adults from both households. On one side, Lord Zhong, draped in his robe, hurried over. Lady Zhong, her collar loose, saw her husband, her eyes reddening as she threw herself into his arms. She's bullying me. I was panting heavily, my hair a tangled mess. Last time you hit my aunt, I haven't even scolded you yet. Lord Zhong shielded his wife behind him and said in a gentle tone, Madam no, Aunt Feng, please don't be angry, I apologize on behalf of my wife. Lady Zhong laughed heartily with her hands on her waist. Feng Ningwen, if you have the guts, go find your husband to back you up too. I held my breath, my eyes reddening. Say that again, say it again. I will, with my husband protecting me, who would bother fighting you? I was about to charge forward the next moment, but unexpectedly, someone grabbed me by the collar and pulled me into an embrace. Madam Zhong is absolutely right. My wife is naturally under my protection. Hearing Chen Yu's words, my nose tingled with emotion. Struggling forward, I shouted, I can fight you myself. Come out here, Ning Wan. Chen Yu, let go of me. Don't anyone try to stop me. Ning Wan. Chen Yu suddenly turned me around, pressed me into his embrace, placed his hand on my head, and gently stroked it. Ning Wan, I'm here. No one can bully you. Be good, leave it to me. I suddenly stopped and fell silent, burying my head in his shoulder to hide my face. Minister Zhong said from behind me, Prime Minister Chen, the ladies often have misunderstandings. Look, it's late and quiet now, let's not argue. Another day. I will surely pay a visit to your residence. You are too kind, Lord Zhong. Lady Zhong was still muttering under her breath, quietly complaining about something. Lord Zhong gently coaxed her in a soft voice, and with a creak, the small gate of the Zhong residence closed. Chen Yu and I stood in the alley. I was still buried in his embrace, not saying a word. After a long while, he suddenly smiled. So you don't trust me? I wiped my tears on the fabric of his shoulder, then turned my head away and fixed my gaze on a large rock. He patted my back. Madam, I am dressed more properly than Minister Zhong. Then, leaning close to my ear, he whispered slowly. From last night until now, I haven't even loosened my clothes. I asked, if you're not consummating the marriage, what are you doing? Thanks to you, I got an earful from the princess. She just calmed down and told me to get lost. I suddenly realized that I, Feng Ningwen, cannot endure every grievance or bear every hardship. For instance, watching Chen Yu consummate the marriage, self-righteously protecting the child of another woman for his sake. The sudden departure of a sister who had been by my side day and night, or quarreling with another woman, she had someone to defend her, while I had no one. The grievances that had built up all day suddenly erupted at this moment, and I burst into loud, childlike sobs. Chen Yu covered my mouth and whispered, for heaven's sake, don't cry so loudly, you might attract wolves. I hit him in anger. Can't you say something nice? I'm crying. Chen Yu was amused by me, watching as I cried. I don't understand why every time I cry out, he lowers his head and covers his mouth. Finally, with tear-blurred eyes, I glared at him, sobbing uncontrollably. Chen Yu, are you out of your mind? Chen Yu cleared his throat lightly, his tone cool. Are you trying to cause a scene to get me to come out? With swollen eyes. I sniffled. Yes, I just wanted you to get out of bed and clean up this mess. Chen Yu took out a handkerchief and pressed it against my face. As expected of a hidden guard trained by the Empress Dowager, exceptionally clever and always one step ahead. You're mocking me. I can tell, madam, this is not mockery. Then what is it? Teasing. Chen Yu's temperament was rather aloof. In the past, he never got close to me, and now, as he led me by the hand toward the small courtyard, aside from the few words he had spoken earlier, he remained completely silent. I followed behind, sobbing intermittently, unable to stop. I, too, fell silent, my emotions in turmoil. If I opened my mouth, I would sound like a babbling fool. Speaking of which, the fact that Chen Yu likes me is just absurd. In terms of looks, I am indeed top tier, but in terms of combat skills, I can't beat Chen Yu. If the Empress Dowager really wanted me to assassinate him, I'm afraid the poison wouldn't even make it into the cup before being discovered. What on earth does he see in me? No, there's an even more important question. What about the child of the White Lotus? She will raise it herself. I didn't want to ask that at all. He is your child too. Chen Yu stopped in his tracks. No, I was lost in thought and bumped right into him. Chen Yu turned around and said calmly, I forgot to tell you, that's not my child. I looked him in the eye and asked softly, you forgot? Chen Yu didn't speak. The next moment, I suddenly exploded like a boiling pot. Such a big matter. You forgot. Chen Yu hugged me. Trying to stop my struggling, I hammered him frantically. Did you not want to admit it because you want to marry me? Chen Yu, with a cold expression, held my neck. Ning Wan, Bai Lian's father is my benefactor. Ha! I let out an angry, cold laugh. What kind of ridiculous plot? Her father saved you, so you repay him with your hand in marriage. How perfectly reasonable. Perfect. Lie, Ria, son, bull, I roared, repeating it again. Chen Yu covered my mouth and sneered. You came here as a spy. I didn't kill you. You repaying me with your hand in marriage is what's perfectly reasonable. I was gagged by him, only able to express my fury with my eyes. Chen Yu stood inside the door, pulling me. Stop messing with me. Get in. Old Wang used to say that when I lose my temper, I'm like a stubborn mule. Now, clinging to the doorframe, Chen Yu simply picked me up and kicked the door shut with a bang. I was thrown onto the bed. Watching Chen Yu start to undo his belt, I frowned. What are you doing? Sleeping? Who said you could stay at my place? He had his own courtyard and a study, switching between them to sleep all year round. When he stayed at his concubine's place, he would assign her tasks and then leisurely lie down in the inner room. Who else is like me? Not only sleeping but also being treated as a plaything, tossed around, and then held in their arms after it's all over. Chen Yu removed the jade crown, held the candle close to my face, and examined me carefully. Good, the swelling has gone down a lot. Keep the lamp lit tonight. My anger, which had just subsided, flared up again. Chen Yu, you're going too far. Without a word, he pulled out the golden hairpin from my hair, his fingers sliding through the strands to loosen them. We've fought, you've vented your anger. Isn't it time to sleep? I sulked, sitting cross-legged inside. Is the child in Bai Lian's belly really not yours? Then why did you admit it back then? Chen Yu took off my outer garment, gave me a gentle push, watched me lie down, and then pressed down on me himself, to shut you up. My eyes widened instantly. Then whose child is it? Chen Yu had already turned over and lay flat, saying calmly, perhaps it belongs to some official in the capital. They just refused to take responsibility. I was lost in thought, while Chen Yu had already closed his eyes. I suddenly sat up from his embrace, propping myself up on my arms. Could it be Lord Su's? Chen Yu let out a light, indifferent hum with his eyes still closed, replying dismissively, perhaps. I poked him. Do you remember, at the last palace banquet, Lord Su took the initiative to speak with Bai Lian? Chen Yu still had her eyes closed. I rambled on. How could we be so familiar without some connection? His wife was furious, almost splashing dirty water at your door. Exactly. I clapped my hands. There's a problem, right? There must be. Chen Yu opened her eyes, looking lazy. Madam, are you going to sleep or not? I'm full of energy. No sleep, no sleep. Go have someone look into it. Not looking, just check it out. Come on, I'm curious, I'm so bothered. Chen Yu suddenly turned over and pinned me down. My dear. My energy is limited, and I don't like meddling in trivial matters of the past. Since you're not sleepy, let's do something more interesting. No, no, you don't. Chen Yu pressed his finger to my lips. In my life, I never imagined I would one day marry such a talkative wife, but so far, it feels pretty good. We have court to attend tomorrow. I hope to make this quick. I asked nervously. Won't it be? Not so good if it's too fast. It's up to you. When you're tired, that's when we'll stop. For the next hour, Chen Yu leisurely sipped tea from his bowl while sitting by the bed, watching me hold a horse stance. I made a pained face. Your Excellency, how much longer? Chen Yu asked unhurriedly. Are you tired? I said, a bit. Go on. As soon as spring began, Chen Yu became so busy that he was hardly ever seen, but by night, he still slept in my room as usual. Sometimes I couldn't hold back the idle chatter in my heart and would prattle on to him. He was extremely patient with me, lying there with his eyes closed, chiming in with a few words. If he really found me too noisy, he'd pull me up to practice horse stance, under the guise of exercising. Meanwhile, Fuyin never let up on tormenting me. She became the main wife, while I was reduced to concubine Feng, forced to pay my respects morning and night, watching her put on airs in front of me. I've always been thick-skinned. Sometimes, after exhausting myself at night, I'd turn into a block of wood the next day, not fighting back when hit, not talking back when scolded. One day, Fuyin was in a foul mood and flung a cup of hot tea at me for no reason. It wasn't until I undressed that night that Chen Yu noticed the red, scalded patch on my skin. His face immediately darkened. He held me down and, ignoring my howls and cries, applied burn ointment to the wound. You guards have no temper at all. Feng Ningwen, have you lost your mind? I was like a blower, desperately blowing on the wound, my eyes welling up with tears. I wanted to dodge, but my legs were sore. I couldn't move. Chen Yu suddenly fell silent. I've practiced for a long time, it should be doable now. What's okay, having a baby? He pushed me down and quickly stripped off my clothes. I twisted my wrist. Ouch. It hurts. Then just stay still, don't touch me. Slow down, this is uncomfortable. TSK, what a hassle. In the darkness, I let out a yelp. What's wrong now? Chen Yu said irritably, you're lying on my hair. Clatter, the gold hairpin fell onto the bed. Don't throw my jewelry, it's expensive. Chen Yu pulled me back. Why are you picking it up? To let it pierce your head? How much brain do you have to spare? I wanted to retort. But just then his hand slid to the small of my back, tickling me. As a result, in the darkness, I first giggled twice, then said, why are you insulting me? Silence. Ning Wn. Don't make me feel like I married a fool. Alright, a sleepless night. My husband is capable again, just a bit irritable. At daybreak, I tried to escape from the bed, but he knocked me out with a single blow, and I lost consciousness. The following spring, the household felt sparse and quiet. Aunt Jiang's courtyard no longer echoed with the sound of the peeper, and Aunt Mai's fabric shelves gathered dust. The small rooms of Aunt Dun and Aunt Lan remained locked for a full month. With no one left to tidy them, I thought, perhaps this is how it will be from now on. Once I give birth to the child, I will return to the palace to report my duty. Fuyin looked down on Chen Yu and didn't care for me either. After causing enough trouble in the mansion, she went back to the princess's residence to stir up more. On this particular day, the weather was unusually pleasant. Having eaten my fill, I lay in the courtyard basking in the sun. Suddenly, a servant came to report that someone wanted to see me. I found it quite strange, as very few people had come to visit since I became a concubine. I made my way leisurely to the front hall, where two familiar figures stood bathed in the bright spring sunlight, waving to me. It's Aunt Dun and Aunt Lan. Aunt Dun has gained some weight, wearing a blue dress with white patterns, and when she smiles, two dimples appear. Aunt Lan carries an extra touch of grace and dignity, dressed in a green skirt, holding an oil paper umbrella, with a flower tucked behind her ear. As soon as they saw me, they warmly came over. Suddenly, my nose tingled with emotion, as if two children who had been away had suddenly grown up and knew to come back to see me. After the casual chat, the two of them pulled me aside, dismissed everyone, and whispered, Princess Fuyin actually has a sweetheart out there. I said, more than one, she has a whole bunch of sweethearts out there. Aunt Lan shook her head. After I left the estate, I went to the bookstore in the southern part of the city. The owner there is kind-hearted and let me watch the shop. That day, as I was about to close up and rest, I overheard someone talking about this matter. She leaned in closer to me. I heard that back then. The princess was willing to harm her own body and betray the royal family for that man. Later, the palace threatened the man's life, and that's why she settled down and continued being the princess. They all say she's a troublemaker in the palace, so desperate she isn't picky, but actually, she's just acting out of spite. Aunt Dun said honestly, I saw her lover, he's quite handsome, Sister Bichuan from the Changfeng Pavilion told me. I said, don't call her Sister Bichuan. Aunt Dun was taken aback. Oh, I sorted through the information. So, as long as we help the princess and her lover connect, she's willing to leave. Exactly. Aunt Lan smiled. The bookstore owner is quite an unusual person. Years ago, he somehow collected genuine letters from lovelorn men and women, and the correspondence between that man and the princess is actually among them. I thought it might be useful to you, so I brought it along. I took the stack of letters from her hand, pulling them out one by one. There were two distinct styles of handwriting, one delicate and elegant, the other vigorous and forceful. Between the lines, one was filled with deep affection, the other restrained and reserved. Edwin and I came back this time to ask for your opinion. If you agree, we'll go through fire and water to make it happen for you. I am deeply moved. You, Madame Lan smiled. Madam. Back when I was cornered by thugs in the alley, it was you who saved me. Later, when you wished for the Prime Minister to have a child, I did everything I could to help you. I have little talent, and I've let you down, Madame Dun said. When I had nothing to eat, you gave me a piece of flatbread and brought me home. You are my benefactor, Madame Lan added. To me, Madam, you are like a second parent. I would go through fire and water for you, even at the cost of my life. Madame Dun, me too. I hugged them both, tears streaming down my aged face. I haven't loved you in vain. Later, when Aunt Jiang and Aunt Mai learned of this matter, they resolutely joined the plan without hesitation. On a clear and sunny morning, the plan kicked off in full swing. Fuyin fell into deep thought, staring at a dish on the table. Who made this? It was a stewed chicken, with red beans sprinkled all over the chicken soup. One could imagine the taste was simply wonderful, Auntie Dun said. This is called entrusting love and longing, the princess's lover's favorite dish. She has already cooked many of them with cruel methods at the Changfeng Tower. I stood respectfully to the side and replied, it's a recipe I discovered in a certain ancient text. Fuin's eyes instantly grew complex, suppressing her excitement as she asked, what recipe? I waved my hand, and the lover's handwritten letter was presented. At this moment, Aunt Jiang hid atop the rockery, shaking her head and playing a mournful tune. As expected, Aunt Mai should have already let the person into the mansion by now. Someone rushed in from outside, covered in dust. Fuin's face stiffened, and she abruptly stood up, speaking sharply, who allowed you to show up here? The man had a few more strands of white hair at his temples, his gaze was sharp, and he carried an air of aloof pride. Looking for you. Fuin grabbed the tea bowl and flung it directly at his shoulder. The bowl fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. The man's shoulder was soaked. Fuin said coldly, Zhao Huayan, you're overestimating yourself. Understood. Wishful thinking. Understood. Incompetent coward. I accept the punishment. My mind was in turmoil. Zhao Huayan, the current minister of Dali Temple in the capital, known for his integrity and impartiality. Zhao Huayan, Fuin laughed, stepping forward to grab the front of his robe. Lord Zhao, are you very angry that I'm marrying Chen Yu? Zhao Huayan's face darkened. Yes, then stay angry, Fuin shouted. Not only will I marry him, but I'll also bear his children. I want you to watch me surrounded by descendants. Stop talking, Zhao Huiyan said quietly. Come with me. Fuin suddenly stopped speaking, her expression haughty. That day I was willing to take poison to follow you, but you were the one who rejected me. I am guilty. Is that all you know how to say? Fuin looked at him coldly. I used to think you were just a blockhead, but now it seems you're utterly foolish. Zhao Huayan moved his lips, his face deathly pale. Lord Zhao, known for his integrity and uprightness, had only once lost his composure upon entering, calling out Fuin's name. Now, he stood there respectfully, his back straight, allowing Fuin to hit and scold him. Fuin, furious, pressed him sharply and sternly. Zhao Huiyan, say it, do you want me? Zhao Huiyan fell silent, closing his eyes briefly. Princess, this is not proper. Say it. Zhao Huayan's face completely lost its color, as if he had cast aside a lifetime of restraint and cultivation, falling into the mortal world. A long time later, in the silence, I do. Zhao Huayan clenched his sleeve, his face showing no embarrassment, only an unchanging, serene expression like an ancient well without ripples. Fuin suddenly turned her back, wiping her face. Zhao Huayan, come with me to the palace, let's make things clear. Okay, if you dare take a step back, I will haunt you even in death. Okay, I cannot bear children. If you utter a single word of disdain, I will castrate you. Okay. Zhao Huayan moved his lips and finally said, Fuin, this time, I will protect you. Fuin, with reddened eyes, walked to the door, turned back, and said to me, Feng Ningwen, help me this once, and I will speak for you in front of the Empress Dowager. I nodded, absent-mindedly saying, thank you, Princess. Long after they had left, Aunt Mai, who had been hiding in the corner, let out a dreamlike murmur. A battlefield of carnage, a massive battlefield of carnage, a righteous and upright high-ranking court official, and an arrogant and domineering imperial princess. I think this could make for a great story. Aunt Lan lowered her head, writing furiously. My heart pounded wildly. A long while later, a slurping sound came from beside me. I turned my head to look. Aunt Dun was holding a cup of longing for love, her cheeks puffed out as she gulped it down. Slowly, her face wrinkled into a bitter expression. Lord Zhao's taste is truly unique. I dashed all the way, pushed open the door to Chen Yu's study, and threw myself in front of him. Husband, I think I've made a terrible mistake. Chen Yu lifted his eyelids slightly, maintaining his ever unshakable composure. Are you referring to Zhao Huiyan? I was taken aback. How did you know? Otherwise, did you think the Prime Minister's residence was a marketplace, where you can come and go as you please? You knew all along. How is that possible? You're talking in your sleep. Me. In April, a massive scandal erupted in the capital. Princess Fuin and the chief minister of the Dali Temple, Zhao Huiyan, had long been involved in a secret affair. The princess had once been pregnant with his child, but after an abortion that damaged her health, she could no longer conceive. The royal family, shamed by the disgrace, stripped Fuin of her title and reduced her to a commoner. Zhao Huiyan knelt outside the palace gates, drenched by the rain all night, waiting for the one he loved. On the same day, Bai Lian had a difficult childbirth, and Chen Yu left the capital, I was tied up by people from the palace and brought before the Empress Dowager. The old lady was in a terrible mood, furious. Truly, you're more of a hindrance than a help. It seems you have no idea how to behave properly. I had encouraged her most beloved daughter to run off with Zhao Huayan, and she wished she could tear me to pieces. I feared the Empress Dowager would vent her anger and harm Chen Yu. So I exhausted all my words, pleading with him to leave the capital and settle things with Bai Lian. Finally, I wore him down until he grew impatient and left this troubled place. Now I am all alone, with no one to rely on, and I dare not implicate my aunt, dragging an innocent person into this. The Empress Dowager was so furious that her veins bulged. If it weren't for Fuyin speaking on your behalf, I would have your head right now. Death may be spared, but punishment is unavoidable. Eunuch Wang, make her get out and go to Changfeng Pavilion, sell herself and receive guests. My face turned pale. For a hidden guard to be reduced to the lowest-ranking concubine is a great disgrace. On the way, Eunuch Wang said slowly, Feng Ningwen, I've told you long ago that you're not cut out to be a hidden guard. You're too soft-hearted and too foolish. I went to great lengths to find you a good position, to fall in love and bear children, and you've managed to ruin even that. I truly don't know how to help you anymore. I lowered my head and said dejectedly, Thank you, Brother Wang. Eunuch Wang shook his head. I've already spoken to Bichuaner. Lower your head when you should, speak properly, and she can protect you. Sigh, I replied, then asked, Then, what about Chen Yu? Still worrying about Chen Yu, Eunuch Wang poked my forehead. He's a high-ranking prime minister. Do you think he'd take a fancy to you? Get a grip, it was all just an act. I didn't believe it at first, but after staying at Changfeng Tower for half a month, I still hadn't received any news from Chen Yu. Truth be told, I haven't been doing well this month. Eunuch Wang told me to hide my talents, so I claimed I only knew how to sing. Soon, I became famous in Changfeng Tower. The new songstress, Feng Yang, possessed unparalleled beauty and figure, but her singing was off-key, not just off-key. It even gave people nightmares. Bichuaner sneered at me in private. And the very next day, she spread the rumor that I was a jinx who brought misfortune to husbands. Those who had coveted my beauty vanished in the blink of an eye. To wait for Chen Yu, I stayed cooped up in my room every day, refusing all visitors. Seeing that I couldn't bring in any silver, the madam began to skimp on my meals. At first, 3 meals a day became 2, and then 1 meal every 2 days. If it weren't for Aunt Dun secretly helping me out, I would have starved to death long ago. That day, Aunt Dun came to see me on the sly. As usual, she said, Sister Ningwen, go dance. Dancers are quite popular too. They get 2 chicken legs a meal. I sat on the bed, hugging my knees, devouring the steamed bun she'd brought. Halfway through chewing, my nose suddenly tingled with emotion. I lost my parents when I was young and was bought by old Wang, who trained me to be a hidden guard. Old Wang always scolded me for being simple-minded. Yet he never let me go hungry or poorly clothed all these years. Later, I married Chen Yu, but he paid me little attention. Whenever I quarreled with Lady Zhong next door, she had her husband to protect her, while I had none, so I relied on myself and stood proudly above the rest. They all thought I was heartless and unfeeling. But those with hearts and feelings are the ones who get hurt the most easily. Chen Yu said he would protect me, that I had a husband, but now, it's all over. Just like waking from a dream, with tears in my eyes, I swallowed the last bite of the steamed bun. It was time for me to receive customers, with hands and feet. One can't just starve to death. The next day, my nameplate was hung at the Changfeng Pavilion. No one paid any attention. The madam grudgingly gave me half a bowl of leftover dumplings. I continued to wait. On the 4th day, the madam, beaming with joy, hugged me tightly and said, You are my money tree. I was so hungry I felt dizzy and light-headed, and I heard that someone had asked for me, spending 1,000 taels of gold. I just giggled foolishly after hearing it, never expecting that one day, I, Feng Ningwen, would be worth a fortune. The madam threw me into warm water, and the maids bustled about attending to me, muttering things like, If you become rich, don't forget us. In the end, they dressed me in a thin, flimsy dress. They sure know a lot. My slender waist, which I take pride in, is tightly wrapped in red gauze, leaving nothing more than necessary to the imagination. I was so hungry, lying limp on the bed. They tried to help me up, but the madam shooed them away. Help her with what? Do you really think someone spent 1,000 taels of gold just to watch her eat? I waited and waited, but no one came. Closing my heavy eyes, I thought, I'm going to starve to death. I seemed to hear the sound of a small door opening and closing, and footsteps as well. The next moment, a spoonful of hot soup was poured into my mouth. Instinctively, I opened my mouth and licked my lips, then the second spoonful, the third, one mouthful after another. I was like a greedy traveler, until at last, I bit down on the person's finger and wouldn't let go, licking it with lingering satisfaction. Ning wn, you can't eat any more. I drowsily opened my eyes, as if I had heard Chen Yu's voice. He pinched my jaw, forcing me to open my mouth. Be good, you can have more tomorrow. I whimpered, my head lolling over the edge of the bed. Hungry, he sighed, pushed me to roll further into the bed, then lay down on the outer side, pulled the blanket over us, and held me close. You're not hungry, you've just been hungry for too long. I nuzzled against that person's chest and cried, I'm so hungry. Then bite me. I closed my eyes, listening in a daze, opening my mouth but not knowing who to bite. The next moment, my lips touched something warm, cool, and soft. Someone was gently caressing my lips, blocking my breath. In the end, I don't even know how I fell asleep. I just woke up to find myself rich. The madam asked me with a smile, how was the customer from last night? I shook my head, I don't remember. The madam teased, our Fengnyang is feeling shy now. I took a bite of the chicken leg, feeling satisfied. Can I go out for a stroll tonight? The madam's face darkened. No, why? I have money now, the madam said. That patron has requested you for 3 consecutive nights, paying 1,000 taels of gold each evening. Am I out of my mind to let you go out? I was stunned. The chicken leg slipped from my grasp and plopped into the soup, splashing my face. I'm worth so much. The madam beamed with joy. Good girl. Don't let mama down. The next evening, still in the same attire, I widened my eyes and sat in the room waiting for him. The watchman's drum outside the window had just sounded when the door was pushed open. Chen Yu walked in. I froze for a second, then abruptly pulled the quilt over myself, wrapping it tightly around me. I didn't. You didn't what? Chen Yu walked to my bedside and sat down as casually as if he were returning home. I deeply regret it. I wanted to go home. Entertaining guests wasn't my intention at all. Why are you explaining? Chen Yu looked at me. Yes, why am I explaining? He ignored me for half a month, and I didn't even confront him about it. I let go of my hand, freeing it to push him away. Go away, go away. I'm going to entertain guests now. Chen Yu's face stiffened. Who do you want to entertain? My patron. Who spends a fortune for me, who is infatuated with me, who can't eat or sleep for thinking of me. Chen Yu narrowed his eyes and sneered. Spends a fortune for you, infatuated with you, can't eat or sleep for thinking of you. That's right, I said with great pride. Chen Yu said calmly, I don't recall saying that. The room fell silent. I caught the underlying meaning in Chen Yu's words. Did you order me? Who else would be willing to stay up late just to feed you? I was so angry that I suddenly stood up, stepped onto the bed, and looked down at him from above. Where were you earlier? Chen Yu averted his gaze from me and said coldly, your cheap father is in trouble. If he can't be saved, you'll be in trouble too. I'm not his biological daughter, it's just a title. A title? Chen Yu narrowed his eyes, his gaze sharp. Do you know what this title means? The daughter of the governor of Tongju Feng Ningwen is also my lawfully wedded wife, Chen Yu, so. In this lifetime, I will never allow this title to be tarnished. As hidden guards, we have no parents, no family. If we were to leave and live ordinary lives, we would be considered undocumented. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. Chen Yu reached out to me against the light, saying with a headache, hurry up and get down. What's with all that flailing around? I dazedly extended my hand and stepped down from the bed. Chen Yu wrapped me in a large quilt and scolded, utterly disgraceful. Tonight's dishes were as lavish as ever, and Chen Yu kept piling food into my bowl, until I couldn't eat another bite. I threw off the quilt, sweating from the heat. Chen Yu's forehead veins bulged as he covered me again. Go back and lie down, I said. No, I'll sing you a song. Chen Yu frowned. Better not. I still remember he played the piano beautifully, so I pestered him. You play, I'll sing for you. My hands are sore, I can't play. Chen Yu, no excuses. You need to make back that 1,000 taels, then dance. I pulled out my old trick, twisting like a water snake, like this. Chen Yu's eyes darkened, he took a deep breath, and suddenly picked me up. No need, why not use it? I've thought of a more cost-effective way. On the third day, I stayed in bed all day without getting up. Chen Yu stopped attending court. Chen Yu had gone mad. I've become even more famous. They say I'm a fox spirit. Who charmed the esteemed Prime Minister Chen Yu into a daze, spending 3,000 taels of gold for 3 consecutive nights just to share a spring evening with me. The Changfeng Pavilion made a fortune, and Chen Yu topped the list of distinguished patrons, a glory said to be unshakable for a century. My story with Chen Yu quickly became a celebrated tale. It said that the esteemed Prime Minister Chen Yu has a wife, redeemed from the Changfeng Pavilion, who is enchantingly beautiful and full of charm, stirring even the stone heart of Lord Chen. Late at night, I read this passage and couldn't help but laugh heartily. Chen Yu, look, it's talking about me. Chen Yu, with eyes closed, lay by the edge of the bed. I paused for a moment, then asked seriously, do you dislike me? Chen Yu finally opened his eyes. Why do you say that? You always close your eyes when I talk to you. So perfunctory. Chen Yu rubbed his forehead. I spent 3,000 taels to redeem you. What do you think? Then you must be incapable. As soon as night falls, you're dead tired. Chen Yu blinked and stared at me silently for a long moment. I don't know when I gave you that illusion. Then tell me, why won't you look at me when I'm talking to you? Chen Yu suddenly flipped me over and pinned me down. Madam, the consequences of staring at you are immeasurable. The book was absolutely right. This kind of beauty cannot be faced directly by those with impure hearts, and I happen to have ill intentions toward you, having tasted the marrow and craving more. Later, Balian gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, asked for some travel money, and said she was going to her husband's family to demand an explanation. Chen Yu cleared my name, and the Empress Dowager turned a blind eye, focusing instead on dealing with the son-in-law who seemed to have sprung from a rock crevice. Truly, life never ceases, and the battle never ends. But what ill intentions did the old lady really have? She just wanted her daughter to live a better life. Later on, several aunts left the mansion one after another. Some pursued their careers, others got married. I heard that Aunt Jiang married a foreigner and traveled north and south with him doing business. Within a few years, she became a wealthy lady, and now she possesses a truly priceless tiger-patterned peeper. Aunt Mai, with her exceptional embroidery skills, dominated the scene at the capital's largest embroidery workshop. Last month, I heard there was some commotion with the workshop's owner, and a happy event seems to be in the works. Aunt Lan single-handedly revitalized a struggling bookstore and made it flourish. The play based on Fuyin and Zhao Huayan, A Match Made in Heaven, has become a sensation across the land. She's the one who truly became rich overnight, rolling in wealth. As for Aunt Dun, she's a renowned chef in the capital, a first-class master whose dishes are highly sought after. Every now and then, she sends over new dishes for me to taste. Lately, it's been a no-go. Chen Yu has me on a restricted diet, all because I'm pregnant. It's actually quite comical when you think about it. That day, as usual, I was lying in bed, reading Aunt Lan's storybook to Chen Yu. I got so into it that I laughed like a goose, and before I could catch my breath, I gagged. Chen Yu, who had been dozing off, suddenly opened his eyes, sat up cross-legged, and frowned. Under my puzzled gaze, he asked, "What are you gagging for?" I blinked and went, "Gag." Chen Yu was unusually anxious. "Ning Wn, do you feel like throwing up?" I shook my head. "Not really." As soon as I finished speaking, I retched again. After a moment of silence, Chen Yu swiftly got out of bed and put on her boots. "No, I'm going to fetch the doctor." Chen Yu was flustered. I lay by the bedside, my stomach churning with acid, waves of nausea overwhelming me. Closing my eyes made me want to vomit. Opening them made me want to vomit too. Even the sight of Chen Yu's devastatingly handsome face made me want to throw up. Eventually, I started making a fuss. Go away, I'm sick just looking at you." After finally dragging the doctor out of his sleep, he took my pulse and delivered the news. I was pregnant. Chen Yu's face was stiff, showing a rare daze. It took a long time before he managed to squeeze the words out. "Doctor, can you prescribe some medicine? My wife feels nauseous just at the sight of me." The doctor suppressed a laugh, his beard trembling. "Sir, every woman goes through this when she's pregnant. The days ahead will be even tougher. I've always been easygoing, but when it comes to pregnancy, I've been unusually fussy. For example, I find Chen Yu too warm and won't let him touch me while sleeping, ending up with my arms and legs freezing cold every day. For instance, I have a bad temper. I'm quick to fly into a rage, ready to climb up and tear the roof tiles off, or march right over with my belly out to confront Lady Zhong next door. Who was it that said I was a hen that couldn't lay eggs? Whenever Chen Yu had a spare moment, he would plant himself just a few steps away from me, staring unwaveringly, making sure I never left his sight. The only thing he allowed was for a few of my old girlfriends to come by for a chat, but when we got together, we never talked about anything serious, especially the two who were married, who took it upon themselves to teach me the ways of the bedchamber. I took it all in eagerly and put their advice into practice with Chen Yu. That night, I clung to Chen Yu like a long worm, whispering sweet nothings to him in a coquettish tone and reciting many sentimental poems. After listening, Chen Yu's face turned as dark as a pot bottom. He later directly stripped off my worm skin and said something about the 3-month mark of pregnancy being stable, and that my days of arrogance were over. After that, I didn't dare to heed their instigations recklessly anymore. They had a scheme, they were plotting against me. I knew it just from the way Auntie Jiang lost her voice laughing at the marks on my neck the next day. 10 months later, the household joyfully welcomed a new addition. I felt somewhat sympathetic towards Chen Yu. He was a man of simple tastes who disliked noise and bustle, yet his own residence was in an uproar, with the cries of a baby echoing one after another. Indeed, I had given birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The 2 children were full of energy, their cries loud and clear. Chen Yu never said he wouldn't raise them, on the contrary, he raised them very well. Everyone said that Chen Yu was unlucky in this life, married to a nagging wife and blessed with a pair of boisterous children. But how could outsiders truly understand the affairs of one's own household? Ending Easter egg. Feng Ningwen's greatest wish in this life was to have more children than the lady of the Zhong household next door. In the past, they used to throw stones at each other over the wall. At first, the 2 families didn't get along well, but later the adults grew accustomed to it and became quite polite whenever they met. When they ran into each other, the 2 gentlemen would exchange knowing nods, then simply pull their wives, who were as aggressive as fighting cocks, back to their respective homes. Privately, the 2 gentlemen were quite fond of backing up their wives. The 2 families seemed to be in a competition, having children one after another. It wasn't until Feng Ningwen and Chen Yu had a falling out that the competition took a different form. They started comparing their children's academic achievements. Chen Yu, the brilliant and talented prime minister, pursued one truth throughout his life, letting things take their natural course. However, he couldn't resist Feng Ningwen's constant nagging, so he ended up lecturing his son day after day and personally supervising his studies. This allowed Feng Ningwen to show off quite a bit in front of the neighboring Lady Zhong. People often said that Prime Minister Chen was always complaining about his wife. After all, one is as steady as a rock, the other as explosive as gunpowder. How could they ever get along? Yet, Lord Chen truly adores his wife's fiery temperament. He scorns gentle and submissive women, preferring his wife's bold and spirited nature. Though he complains with his words, his actions speak otherwise. In truth, few people know just how much Chen Yu dotes on Feng Ningwen. He simply can't stand her sarcastic, coquettish ways. He went to great lengths to dismiss the women who had been idling around the manor for years, but he couldn't resist his wife's charm. They gather every now and then, exchanging tips on how to manage their husbands, and so, Feng Ningwen strayed further and further down the path of feigned sweetness and cunning, to the point where not even 9 oxen could pull her back. His friends all tease Chen Yu, saying his reputation for being aloof and upright is just a front, that he was actually captivated by his wife's delicate figure and cheerful personality. In this world, there are very few women who can combine a lack of guile with a bewitching charm. Bringing such a woman home is simply too entertaining. Chen Yu didn't speak, and no one dared to ask. Only he himself knew that by marrying this wife, he had struck it rich. Throwing 3,000 gold into Changfeng Tower was not a loss at all. Chen Yu's extra story. My marriage with Ning Wn originated from an accident. That day, I entered the palace to report on my duties and ran into someone at the corner. Fuyin. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had clearly been crying. I usually avoid women, but with the emperor watching from a distance, I exchanged a few indifferent pleasantries before turning to leave. Later, the emperor arranged a marriage for me. The daughter of the governor of Tongju Prefecture. My intuition has always been sharp. This matter is undoubtedly connected to Fuyin. My subordinate once asked if I needed to send someone to investigate. I thought about it and said, forget it, I have a plan in mind. After she enters the household, I'll find an excuse to dismiss her. On the day of the grand wedding, a slender woman was helped out of the bridal sedan by the matchmaker. She wore a red veil, so her face was not clearly visible. The matchmaker took great care with her every move, afraid she might stumble. Such delicate women are common in the capital, so I felt nothing as I took hold of the red silk cord. Just as I was about to turn and lead her inside, she suddenly stumbled, grabbed my belt, and loosened it in front of all the guests. I've seen plenty of the play hard to get games, with one hand pressed against her head, barely holding the wedding veil that was about to fall. Her other hand fumbled all over me as she asked in a fluster, "Where's the rope? Where's the rope?" Her voice was clear and pleasant, reminding me of magpies chirping on the eaves in the early morning. Judging by her voice alone, she was quite an endearing woman. At the very least, she wasn't annoying when she spoke. During the wedding ceremony, she was like a headless fly. unable to even find the right direction. For the first time, I felt the urge to laugh but held it back. Taking her by the arm to guide her through the bows to heaven and earth. My parents have passed away, so I invited several influential witnesses to the wedding. Her wrists were so slender that they trembled when she held the red envelope, though it might also be because she had never seen so much money before. She was quite interesting, but not enough to tempt me into consummating the marriage as others wished, to share the wedding night with her, alone in the bridal chamber all night. What should her reaction have been? Crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain, or sinking into melancholy, or perhaps making a scene in front of me? None. The next day, she came carrying a pot of hot tea. I still remember Ning Dublin peeking in through the doorway, her spirited eyes enchanting and beautiful, with a teardrop mole at the corner that made one's heart ache with tenderness. Her skin was fair, her hair as dark as ink, her lips red and teeth white, and when she smiled, it was like a crescent moon. Beyond that, nothing more could be discerned. She wore a dress of a dull color, loose and billowy, which fluttered in the wind, clinging to her figure and faintly revealing her graceful form. I couldn't figure out her intentions. She stepped through the door carrying a small teapot, gave me a somewhat improper bow, poured a cup of tea in front of me, and pushed it toward me, saying, "Husband, please drink." I never expected that one day a woman would call me husband with such delight and sweetness. What was she so happy about? On my wedding night, I didn't go to her. Was she happy about it? She eagerly listed several benefits of taking a concubine. As if presenting a treasure, I looked at her with a half-smile, clearly seeing the calculations in this woman's heart. She could be sad, she could complain, but she absolutely could not be happy, because if she was happy, it meant she had an ulterior motive. I still remember that pot of tea, perfectly warm, slightly bitter, and after savoring it slowly, a hint of sweetness emerged at the back of my tongue. I agreed to her, then her eyes lit up, like the full moon on the Mid-Autumn Festival, bright and dazzling. I thought she would be satisfied. In my entire life, Chen Yu, I never imagined I could take 4 concubines. My family's tradition was upright and honest, and generations of good reputation were ruined by me. Sometimes I silently think, if one day everything settles down, I must seize her and punish her severely. She is too boisterous, completely focused on how to make me have children. Whenever she has free time, she jokes around with the concubines, and their laughter travels all the way from her courtyard to my ears. Sometimes I get so lost in listening that I don't even hear my subordinates calling me. Gradually, I began to grow accustomed to doing things while listening to her voice. Occasionally, when she fell ill and hid in her room like a quail, I would feel restless and uneasy, but I remembered her identity and knew she had ulterior motives. When did I start to fall for her? I can't quite recall. Probably the first time she led the concubines to a brawl with the neighbors and lost. That day when I returned to the mansion, she came back from the alley with red eyes and disheveled hair, while the neighbor, Lady Zhong, was jeering and shouting insults. The gist of it was that Ning Wn was an unloved woman who had no one to protect her when she was bullied. I immediately stopped in my tracks and couldn't help but ask, "Who bullied you?" Ning Wn wiped her eyes. "No, I knocked them all down. No one could bully me." In the past, she always spoke with animated expressions, but this time, her eyes were downcast, her snow-white neck delicate and fragile, with scratches on it. She had indeed been bullied. I suddenly thought of a newborn kitten. Weak and prone to tears, she turned her head away, thinking she hid it well, but I saw everything. Later, when I left the court, I encountered Lord Zhong. Unable to suppress my anger in our exchange, I threatened him, making it clear that as long as Feng Ningwen remains in my residence for a day, she is my wife. When 2 women fight, he should not interfere. Soon, it had been a year since we married. She was still constantly devising ways to win favor for the concubines. How utterly foolish. I used some means to threaten those women into keeping quiet about what happened that night, but she thought I was incapable and went begging to Ouyang at the revival hall. When Ouyang told me about it, I was so angry I laughed. I stared at the heavy silver in my hand, thinking, Feng Ning has saved quite a bit of money over the past year, and in the end, she's actually willing to spend it on me. Ha, how touching. When she urged me again to take a concubine, I suddenly felt something stuck in my chest. It was different now. For the first time ever, I went with the flow and brought Balian back to shut her up. Damn it, she was so moved that her eyes welled up with tears. It wasn't even her child. What was she getting so emotional about? Feng Ningwen must have something wrong with her head. At the New Year's Eve palace banquet, Feng Ningwen danced for the first time. I never knew she had this side to her. She always wore old clothes and was unkempt. So why would she willingly give a group of men with ill intentions such a feast for the eyes? My finger missed the key, and the music stopped. I did it on purpose. Fuyin saw it clearly. She drugged me. But it was Feng Ningwen who showed up. Damn it. She always does things that end up backfiring on herself, in a way. She's a bit clueless. I held her, and my restless blood suddenly calmed. I didn't want to let go. I admit, many times in the dead of night, I'd wake up with a rare surge of passion. I dreamed of Ningwen and felt helpless about it. I'm a normal man, after all. Even knowing she has her secrets, I couldn't resist growing fond of her over time. She's charming and clumsy, occasionally showing a laughable stubbornness and carefree attitude, and of course, she has a graceful figure and striking beauty. I intended to let her go, but she was willing to give it a try. I have never been so eager and delighted. It has nothing to do with the medicine, it's all me. I understand perfectly. Feng Ningwen is mine, and I want her for the rest of her life. She's interesting when she talks, interesting when she scolds, and even interesting when she picks a fight. No wonder all those women like her. Fortunately, I like her too, so I began to probe, wanting to know her identity and take the initiative. Ouyang teased me, when you get serious, you lose. I've already lost, I said calmly. Ouyang's mouth fell open, nearly dropping his jaw in shock. Feng Ningwen was an easy woman to handle. It took almost no effort to coax out her identity. I couldn't help but wonder, if the Empress Dowager sent her, wasn't she afraid she would turn against her like this at the last moment? But later, after piecing together the whole story, I realized that, given her intelligence, it was an act of great mercy from the Empress Dowager to assign her this task. I need to find a way to get Fuyin out, and all those women must leave as well. The world of me and Feng Ningwen has no room for others. The people below have found out that Fuyin's lover is Zhao Huayan. With a clue, everything becomes easier to handle. Actually, these things are trivial to me, but I suddenly thought of leaving this task to Feng Ningwen. She is too slow-witted. I want to see if she dares to take this step for me. Without the hesitation and anxiety I had anticipated, she agreed readily, charging forward single-mindedly. Only after finishing did she rush in with a look of belated fear, telling me she had messed up. At that moment, my emotions were very complex: heartache, guilt, and love. Ning Wn was foolish. She only told me once that she liked me, but before I could say it to her, someone reported that something had happened in Tongju, coincidentally. Ning Wn urged me to leave the capital. Before departing, I repeatedly instructed Ouyang and Bai Chun to protect Ning Wn. For a full half-month, I was eager to return, thinking that if I could save the life of the Tongju governor, Ning Wan and I could rightfully grow old together in the future. But I underestimated her resolve and overestimated Ouyang and Bai Chun's abilities. Ning Wan was never plump to begin with, but when I saw her lying weak and frail on the lavish bed in Changfeng Tower, her eyes closed and her body almost swallowed by a pile of cotton padding, my head buzzed and it felt as though the sky was falling. Starving my wife, Chen Yu, the one I treasure like a precious jewel, in just half a month, she had become so thin she was almost unrecognizable. I tried to feed her some broth, and the way she swallowed it greedily broke my heart. Later, she threw herself into my arms, crying and saying she was hungry. I truly deserved to die. How could I have dared to leave the capital and abandon her like that? The next day, my Ningwen was full of life again, her eyes as bright as ever when she looked at people. I heard that before I came, they all looked down on Ningwen. I insisted on giving her the utmost dignity and the most enviable affection. I spent 3,000 taels of gold not as a ransom, but as a betrothal gift, whether she was the daughter of the governor of Tongju or Fengnyang, the songstress of Changfeng Tower. I wanted the world to forever remember that my wife, Feng Ningwen, is of noble status, priceless beyond measure. At this moment, the morning sunlight streamed through the window, falling on Ningwen's fair face with its delicate fuzz. Her eyelashes were soft, her expression innocent and charming. Last night, she chatted away reading stories to me and stayed up late, which is why I could see her so peaceful and quiet in the morning. I lowered my head and kissed her, with a playful intent. Kissing her awake, she let out a soft murmur, opening her eyes groggily. "What's wrong?" I smiled. "Ning Wn, there's something I've never told you." With her eyes closed, she mumbled something, turning one ear toward me, its plump lobe glowing white and translucent. Probably she wanted me to say it myself, so she could go back to sleep. I kissed her helplessly. If she couldn't hear it, then so be it. In the warm, bright morning light, I leaned close to her ear and spoke the words I had long held back. "Ning Wn, I love you."